Hey you guys, it's Gem Warrior, and oh my god, oh my god, I have been sitting at a computer since 11:30 p.m. last night, and as I'm making this video, it is now um 5:15 in the morning, and I literally just walked downstairs away from the computer. I didn't eat in that time. I did not use the bathroom. I didn't do anything. I just stayed on the computer working on my website, which I will launch hopefully in the middle of this week. So I'll make a video about that when it comes up. But oh my god. I was like, this whole time I've just been thinking, what did I get myself into? Like, holy crap. Holy crap. So anyway, um, today I wanted to talk about fear. And what I just mentioned does tie into my topic today. Otherwise, what would be the point of me bringing it up? So, I made a video previously in this series of videos um, about real talk or raw talk, like talking about real issues. I've only made one video before in this series, and that was a video um, called Dealing with Pain and Fundamental Darkness. So if you haven't seen it, I'm going to link it down below in the nether realm of this video. And if you have seen it and you want to check it out again because you don't remember what I said, or if you're open to get something new from it, then it's down there. I'm really proud of that video. It's actually probably one of my most favorite videos that I've made so far. I'm just really proud of the content that was inside that video. So in that vein, I wanted to talk about now, instead of pain, I wanted to talk about fear. So, um, fear. Fear is, for me, an all-consuming force of not just humanity, um, but I guess of the universe. I've never thought about fear on a macrocosmic level. But at least here in our world, this physical, like Earth, this plane, at least on Earth. Of course, if it was on Earth, why wouldn't it be anywhere else? But anywho, um, I consider fear to be a really huge energy, along with love and all these human emotions. I do think that they exist outside of ourselves, not just inside, in our mental planes. So, fear is something that I was exposed to when I was very, very young. And it happened. I could, well, first let me say, I can remember a time when I didn't know fear and I didn't know negativity. Um, I might have to get something to drink. Like I said, I've been sitting at a computer for hours, not doing anything else but work. Um, anyway, Wonder Woman cup. Um, anyway, I remember a time when everything was really innocent and I didn't experience any negativity from anybody. I remember just everything being solely good and not sensing anything bad at all. Um, of course, I was really little, wasn't even in school yet. These are some of my earliest memories. And I actually remember the very first time that I ever felt fear. And that was when I was molested by my aunt. And I just remember feeling completely scared and immobilized. Like I was so scared that I couldn't move. I couldn't physically move. And she would tell me to move and I wouldn't because I was so scared. I didn't understand. And so with that said, I think that fear well really any emotion, not just fear. But I think we're using fear as an example here. I think that fear when you first feel it, it kind of imprints on you. Like it influences the way you feel fear and process fear going forward. So I think the first time we feel love, the first time we feel fear, the first time we feel anger, the first time we feel joy, that experience, if you can go back to it and pinpoint it, I think you will find that it influences the way you see that emotion, process that emotion, and how you react to that emotion in others. Because it was the first. So with fear, because it was so traumatic and so immobilizing, um, that's how I've come to know fear and how I process fear. I very much, when I feel scared, I I try to like box it away and push it into like the dark area of myself and like not acknowledge it for a while. And of course, that's something that I've had to really deal with, you know, being on this warrior centric path, this warrior philosophy that I've adopted. It's quite the opposite. And the television just turned on. This happened in another video. I don't know why, but my TV turns on by itself all the time. All the time. I'm starting to think that it's some kind of spirits. But anyway, so, fear, blah, 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 TV turned on. So, yeah, being on this warrior kind of centric path that I've adopted, now I have to process my fear immediately as it comes and face it head on and, um, you know, see what fear is trying to tell me. Um, but you know, as I said before, that wasn't the case. When I was a kid, um, I felt a really deep association with um, any kind of rodent, really. Rabbits and like squirrels and guinea pigs were my favorite because we had so many guinea pigs as a kid as pets. So that was really my introduction to the animal world, and I think those really became totems for me, and still are. Um, Rodents, and you know they're very timid creatures, for the most part, and they, especially with guinea pigs, I'm speaking of, they process fear the same way that I did. So I felt such a kindredness to them, and I kind of allowed fear to become something comfortable in my life and something that to expect. Um, that it was just a part of life that I was basically prey to everyone and let people walk all over me and stuff like that. And anywho, I think once we really come of age and of consciousness, we realize that that's maybe not a healthy way to respond to fear. And some people respond to fear through anger. They don't respond through passiveness. They become enraged, and that's not a healthy response either to fear. A lot of people just get angry when they're scared and lash out at people and persecute people, and abuse people. And that's not a healthy response to fear either. So I think the question is, what is a healthy response to fear? And do you have one? And I think if we sit and ask ourselves, how do I respond to fear? Is my response to fear healthy? I think we can easily get the answers, but I think if we ask ourselves, like, how do I change my responses to fear? Like, How do I process fear in a different way that is healthier for me? That's where I think it gets really difficult, obviously, right? Then we're talking about like shadow work. Um, and for me, it's I decided to really try to attack this head on about 6 or 7 years ago. I think 6 years ago. 2010 feels right to say. Um, so about 6 years ago, I decided that I wasn't gonna be prey anymore to people, and that I was gonna stand up for myself and have a voice and have a backbone. So I um I remember I was with a friend at the time, um, which that friendship in itself was a lesson in fear, but that's a much more private and other discussion. But I mean, because we're obviously not friends now. But we decided that we were going to try to harness fear because we had this childish, I guess, idea that somehow we could control fear, and by controlling something, you have power over it. It was really stupid. But at the time, we didn't know any better. So, um, also, I keep saying at the time, but at the time, I was working with Loki a lot because I was in a very chaotic place. And so I was working with Loki. I worked with him mostly under the guise of his like what I would call the true self of him, which is he's a god of fire and storytelling. Um, the whole like demonized versions and devilly trickery versions came a little bit later. Um, but yeah, I was working with Loki and I channeled him. I took him in, and he was speaking through me to my friend, and he told him um, to give birth to fear. And so after this, he mirrored that information back to me after we had done this and I had released Loki and everything. And I thought, give birth to fear. What does that even mean? And so we took it really literally, and we decided to give birth to this fear entity. Like we would create a oh, I forget the term. Uh oh, create a oh, I forget the term when you're making a thought form into reality. You're creating a like a servant or something, like a servitor or something like that, right? Servitor. Anyway, we decided that we were going to do that, and so I remember quite literally taking a stick. It was probably my wand because we were indoors. We moved all the furniture out to the sides of the room. I remember dragging it along the ground and making a pentacle. But as I dragged it, it felt extremely, extremely staticky. Like I remember instead of visualizing this element coming out from the wand like I normally do when I use a wand to cast anything, I usually I usually envision like the fifth element, the ether, coming out of it along the ground, making this symbol. But instead, I remember seeing this kind of a like electrical current coming out of the rod, but it didn't look like electricity, like normal electricity. It was like orange, and it had a shimmer to it. Like it seemed like glittery, but it was like there were like lightning tendrils and anyway, it was really strange and it felt painful when I was doing it. I was dragging the stick along the ground really harshly, making this pentacle, and I just remember having that feeling like, when you bite into aluminum foil and it hurts really bad in your mouth, like there's like an electrical shock. Um if you haven't done that, then don't worry about it. But um anyway, it felt like that but in my hand, and it was so painful. But I kept going, and it was really self-destructive of me, and like masochistic. But I did it, and I remember this energy kind of formed between my friend and we kind of started like letting it drift back and forth between us. Of course, we weren't physically seeing this. I mean, I'm not crazy. We were kind of like describing it back and forth to each other and kind of creating this visualization of it. And so this energy is passing back and forth between us and kind of taking all the negativity out of us and absorbing it into itself like it was a ball of negativity. And we're just adding to it. We're just feeding this negativity. And the ball fell to the floor after it got heavy with negativity. It fell to the floor to the middle of the pentacle, like that open space in the star. It fell, and as it did, it kind of cracked open, and there was this form. Of course, this is, again, like visualization that we were having, or at least that I was having. And this form came out of it, and it grew very large. As soon as it started to stand, it was just getting bigger and bigger until it was like hunched over like the corner of my room. Like it was like so tall that it had to bend over, which is scary. All the lights out, by the way. We had all the lights out when we were doing this. No candles or anything. Complete darkness. We decided to do this ritual in complete darkness. And so I'm seeing this image, like this shadow man, like hunched over the corner of my room, and he looked like a scarecrow. Like his silhouette was that of a scarecrow. Like he had the scarecrow mask, you know, with like the neck tied with the fringe, and from inside where the scarecrow like eyes would be in the mouth that's cut out, you know, with the stitching, there was like this soft orange glow, almost like an ember. And he looked terrifying. And it was that same orange kind of glow, that energy that was in the wand that was like crackly when I cast the circle. And so he didn't speak, but it was like instinctively, my friend and I both were like, we just gave birth to fear. Like we just put our fears into a being and gave it life. You know, like we created this spirit of fear whose job is to like instill fear and to acknowledge your fear and to work with fear. This fear servitor. And so we called him Samhain, appropriately, although we did this in the middle of summer, but we called him Samhain because, you know, Samhain, it makes sense to associate fear with Samhain to me. You know, it's a very dark holiday, death, and all blah, blah, blah. So we called him Samhain, and he looked like a scarecrow, a really tall, like 9-foot tall scarecrow. And I think my cat is going to try to get into this video. Okay. So, yeah, it was terrifying. And so over the next few weeks, he would pop up like randomly. Like you would be walking around your house and it was like cliche horror movie kind of stuff, you know? I would be walking through my home. I lived alone at the time, and suddenly he would be there like on the other side of the corner. Like, hey. And it was like, dude, I would turn off the light in a room, and you know, I would see the room was empty, and then not this room, but I'm just giving a reference. I would turn off the light in the room, and suddenly he wouldn't be there before, but as soon as I turned the light off, suddenly I would see him standing there. Like as soon as the light went off, he's like there with his orange eyes and mouth, like inside of his mouth, and it was really weird and strangely helpful and cathartic. To kind of be exposed to fear like that. And it got to the point where I realized he wasn't negative at all. He wasn't like evil or harming me. He was kind of making me feel the fear instead of hiding from it. Like I couldn't hide from him. And so my cat is trying to swat the camera. Please stop, Miko. I love you. And so, yeah, he was forcing me to feel it and forcing me to process all this fear. I couldn't run from him, and I couldn't hide from him. And so he was incredibly helpful in that way. Although it was terrifying. It wasn't fun. I wasn't like, yeah, let's learn about fear today. No, it was constantly being scared. I was constantly like having palpitations, but it's what I needed. I needed to feel fear again and to process it and to learn how I responded to fear and to work out how I responded to fear and to work out how I dealt with fear when confronted with it. And so after I did that, after I kind of like turned fear into an element like this orange substance is what I always saw and still do when I think about fear or when I work with fear. Like if I feel scared, I look at my spiritual body, and if I see these orange blotches or this electrical current running through me, uh, I know that that's fear, and I work to get it out or to work through it. Um, so yeah, that was my journey with fear and working with fear and acknowledging fear and coming to know fear. And in a strange way, it kind of did help me control fear. But yeah, I just wanted to share that. I think it's a really interesting way to work with fear. I don't think a lot of people work with fear. They fear fear, and I think to give a face to something is to help you to understand it. Working with things in the abstract kind of aren't always the best way, at least for me. I have to make them very personal. So, God's essences, energies, everything, I have to make them very personal, and I have to give them names and faces and energies and colors, associations and things like that, and it helps me understand them more. Um, that's what we do as humans, really, I guess, right? We label things to understand them. Labels help us process, or identifiers. So, I would encourage you to acknowledge your fear. What are your fears about things in life, in your relationships? What is your fear? And then go work with that said fear. Go seek out your fear instead of running from it. And I think you'll be surprised with the results. I was. Um, and I know I said that this tied into what I was talking about in the beginning of this video, and it does, because I've been very scared to, for a couple of years now, to create my own website and to create my own business centered around paganism, of course, because I just felt like maybe my voice wasn't needed, or the things that I had to share weren't wanted or needed. And I finally had to just kind of get over it and put myself out there. And because, it's that old saying that you'll never know if something could happen or not, if something will succeed unless you try. And so I'm going to try this week. I'm going to upload my website, start my business. I will make videos about all the services that I'll provide. And that is a huge step for me to overcome fear, the fear of visibility, because I'm a very big introvert, even though I've done a lot of performance art. I'm a big introvert, and so to be out there like that, exposed 24/7 on the internet, it's huge. It took me forever to even get this channel going, even though I wanted to so badly add my voice, because of fear. So anywho, that's my journey with fear, and I hope that this was helpful in some way. And drop me a line down below with a comment or something, because that'd be nice. And yeah, you guys, that's it for today. For now, at least. Who knows? I might make another video later just because I'm feeling a little sassy. And because I feel like I need to do something besides sit at that damn computer. So, anywho, peace out, Girl Scouts. I hope you're all doing well. Much love.